Hey guys, Trey Bender here, Program Stories, and today I'm sitting here with my main man, Mr. Billy Armstrong. And when Billy was young, he got sent to Ivy Ridge, or the Academy at Ivy Ridge, if you want to call it that. This was back in 2002 to 2003. So, Billy, let's start from the beginning and tell us kind of what happened. Were you escorted or did you go freely? And you just kind of tell us how you came to getting to Ivy Ridge. Tell us how it happened.
I actually was told that I was going to be escorted if I wouldn't go willingly.
Okay.
So I ended up willingly having my parents take me up and skipping the escort altogether. Actually, I thought it was just a bluff, more or less. I thought they were just trying to get me there, whatever it took, until I had gotten there and found out through everyone else there, more or less, that that was the case. They were all escorted there, and it didn't sound pretty either. So I'm kind of glad that my parents did take me, for that matter. But yeah, I couldn't imagine that.
You know, when I was going to my program, the same thing happened to me. You know, I was taken by my parents, or at least just by my dad, but I was also taken under false pretense, you know. So I understand that. Okay, when you first got there, what's the first thing that happened to you?
We walked through the magnetic locked doors right in the beginning, and we went into what would be like the intake room, I'm guessing. Had like a couch in it, kind of looked cozy. And we didn't have long. They were like, all right, say goodbye to your mom and dad, and we'll see you in a year. And that was it, you know, see you in a year, love you. And they just kind of took off. I mean, it was quick. And then I was right off to the dorms to meet with the upper level guy.
Okay.
You know, with the watch and stuff to help
Yeah.
to help me learn the ropes.
Yeah, I got that too, unfortunately. All right, so while this is happening to you, what's running through your mind?
Man, I was just so young. So I was 12 when I went in.
Wow.
And the youngest there, other than me, was 16. And
Wow.
I mean, going through my mind was, did I really do something that bad? I mean, because that's more or less why I understood why I was going, because I wasn't listening to my mom and dad. I wasn't wanting to go to school.
You know, it sounds to me, Billy, like you could have been any normal American teenager at that time.
Pretty
I
much.
mean, any normal American child.
I was picking up cigarettes. I mean, if that's the worst thing that they can chalk up on me, that's going to be it at that age.
I agree with that. You know, I do. I really do. And you know something? It's like these programs definitely preyed on just normal things like that. Would you agree with that?
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Of course.
All right. So after all of this, you know, tell us some other things.
I mean, as soon as I in the gate, even walking to the dorms, I mean, everybody's eyeballs are just deer in headlights looking at me, because they're all wondering. You know, it's my intake form. It says I weighed 80 pounds. I was not a big kid by all means. I wasn't tall.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't sprout until like 16. You know, I was short. I was a little kid.
Yeah.
They all just were asking me, like, what'd you do? Why are you here? Because they were thinking like I hurt somebody or did something very bad, like, you know what I mean? And I just told them, I said, hey, you know, I didn't want to go to school. I like playing Grand Theft Auto on my PlayStation 2, and I smoke a little cigarettes, and my parents think I use drugs. And I didn't know what one drug was then.
You know, I noticed that younger kids were starting to come in, you know, when I was at my school.
Okay.
And, you know, this makes total sense. All right. So how long were you at Academy at Ivy Ridge?
So, yeah, I was supposed to be there a year. And thankfully, my parents couldn't afford the whole year.
Yeah.
We all know how that goes. I was in for just a couple of days shy, I think, of 6 months.
So you had a relatively shorter stay. than
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah. I
people.
mean, thankfully, I think any longer it might have done me even worse. I feel like, I mean, I didn't feel like I was supposed to be there, so.
From the sounds of things, I don't feel like you should have been there either. All right, so all this is happening to you. Tell us some other things that stand out in your mind from your time there.
Oh man, so
I'm trying to think of where to start on this one.
I mean, yeah. So just learning the ropes in that building, right away you could figure something wasn't right. But I was so young, you don't even know whenever you're that age how prisoners are treated
No, you
in
don't.
jail.
No, you don't.
So when I'm walking into this and I'm seeing everything, adults walking up and down the hall,
Mhm.
and it's normal. It was a normalized thing. I just thought everything that was happening was kind of normal. Don't look out the windows. It's distraction. Walk in sync. And if you do any of that wrong, I found out real quick. You get restrained. And the old academy at Ivy Ridge, they love not just one person, two person, but 3 or 4 people on you at once. And that led to worksheets, sheets for short, where you had to sit on that shitty chair at the edge of it and get your back hurt.
Don't I know it?
Yeah, that
Don't
stuff
I
was
know it?
awesome. Which, of course, once you refused to do that, or you did worse, you got sent to the good old OP, which was I spent a lot of time there, just because I was so little and young. That's where I was just alone there. It sucked, but I found myself there a lot, and it's mainly because I just refused to do what they said, mainly.
I was in a lot of the same boat, and I want to touch on that some. You talked about misbehaving while you were there,
Mhm.
Tell us some of the things you remember doing.
I mean, first time in OP, they're explaining to me what's OP.
Okay.
They're like, get in the room, lay down on your belly,
Yeah.
chin on the floor, hands to your side, feet together.
I remember that.
If you move, we'll restrain you. If you get up and cross the threshold,
Mm-hmm.
we'll really restrain you.
Tell us what the threshold is.
It's the doorway. It's where the door would be.
Where the door would be.
Yeah,
But
there
they
was
called
no-
it a threshold.
There was no doors. I don't remember doors on that. No, I don't remember doors because the guards sat outside, like right outside of the OP rooms.
While you were laying?
I can't remember how many
Okay.
rooms were there. I
Okay.
can't remember exactly, but the rooms were side by side, the OP rooms, and the guards sat right outside of the OP rooms to make sure he could see everybody laying down on their belly. Well, my first time there, he's explaining the rules. I stood right up and put my foot right over the threshold. And then it was 3 or 4 guys on me at that point, and they bloodied my nose the very first restraint in OP. There's blood all over the floor. Like the one guy
Wow.
just literally sat on my head.
Was this kind of abuse common? Like, did you see it ever happen to anybody else?
Oh man, every day.
Ever?
It was unfortunate, but I mean, even from the time you come in, if you have long hair there, they're cutting it. So that was a fight for some people coming in. I've seen kids fight for that haircut.
You know something? I remember seeing that at my program too at Caroline Springs. I remember
Mhm.
there was a guy who came in with dreadlocks,
Mhm.
and they cut them all off.
Yeah.
Like as
Mhm.
soon as he got there.
Yeah.
So that does not surprise me.
I mean, right from the get-go, you see that, you know it's not going to be pretty from there out.
Not at
But
all.
I mean, if that's the way they're going to treat you for getting your hair cut,
Yeah, I personally saw that happen a lot too, and that does not shock me because it happened in my program too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so you saw this happen. What are some other things that stand out while you were in OP, or observation placement as it's called?
Observation placement. So, there's just so much. The OP, I spent a lot of time there, but there's not much other than OP there for me, other than being restrained and
Okay.
just getting the welts on my chin,
Okay.
the sores on my chin. I was there during the winter too. It was hard with all the alarms on the windows going off. You know, getting up in the middle of the night doing call. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No, tell us what call is.
So they had lasers on the outside of the windows, which.
So when you say lasers outside of the window, like what would you describe it as?
Do you know a garage door opener?
Yeah.
You know how a garage door works?
Yeah.
Well, do you know the eyes that connect? So that way that if you come through the door while it's moving, it trips the sensor and it automatically lifts it, like how the eyes are connecting.
Yeah.
Well, if something breaks that path,
Okay.
the alarm goes. Like somebody's escaping out the window, which had bars on them.
Wow.
So I don't even know. There were stories when I got there that a kid had jumped from the second story during a snowstorm and broke both his legs on the fall. And after that, they put the bars. But I wasn't there for that. I don't know if that was even true.
You know something, Billy? I want to tell you something. A long time ago, when I was in college, I coincidentally met somebody who was also at Ivy Ridge. And he told me something similar about having to wake up and jump in and be counted. And this could have been
anytime the alarm went off.
Anytime the alarm went off. So if the alarm would go off at 2:30 in the morning, you'd have to jump up.
You had to get up.
Okay, if it had gone off at 2:30 and then again at 3 a.m.
Doesn't matter. It would go off minutes later during a snowstorm. It would go off all night long, and you had to get up and do a roll call. Yep.
And was this a nightly thing?
I mean, during the winter storms, it was definitely the alarms were bad, but every now and again, I mean, they would just trip. I mean, they weren't perfect. It's not like the system was probably, you know, if a leaf blows up to the window or something blows up, you know, then it's going to go off. They were sensitive.
I've heard of this before, and you telling me this is really reiterating it. Would you say this had any effect on you later on, or what was your thoughts on this?
You know, as weird as it is, I don't have any kind of dreams, so to speak, vividly of the academy. I believe that's because of how young I was.
I got you.
I think that really helped me. I was just so young and I was still growing. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't even a teenager yet, so.
I get that.
I think I was just so, like, in and out in 6 months that it didn't really, thank God it didn't, like, affect me to the point where I was having, like, nightmares of it. Now, here and there, I'll have a dream of the place, but it's nothing like crazy.
I think you were one of the luckier ones with your shorter stay.
Yeah,
that's for sure. But do you feel like even the short stay had any long-term effect on you?
I mean, I don't see. I mean, it definitely made me think a little harder before disrespecting my parents, obviously, because you don't want to ever go back there.
No, you do not. You certainly don't want
You know, the unfortunate thing, though, is my mom sending me there because she thought I was using drugs and me coming out knowing all of the drugs. So she probably wasn't expecting that.
I kind of foresaw that. All right, so you're getting made to get up. You're being restrained, your bloodied nose. Do you think your parents had any idea?
I remember sending letters to them, attempting to send letters to them.
Okay.
I was so, like I said, young and just little, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't realize the mail was being pre-read and scanned, and if you wrote anything out of, they just threw it.
Yeah.
So I tried telling my parents many times through letters what was going on there, but obviously they didn't get the message because they're pre-scanning stuff. And
okay.
so I tried telling my parents through letters. Obviously there's no phone calls. There was a time when I was in OP, a police officer walked through the building and I screamed for help. I had to. I couldn't not.
You know, let's talk about that. You know, you saw this police officer and you started screaming for help. What happened then?
They just were like, we're gonna restrain you, you know, and the cop just didn't even stop. He didn't even wink. He didn't even flinch. He just kept walking. He just because where OP cornered was there were sheets, and then I'm pretty sure the hall ended there.
Wow.
So he just literally came around, like looked at the end of the hall, and then come back. And he didn't act like he didn't even hear me, more or less. And I'm sure, obviously they had it all set up there. Like, listen, these kids are going to probably scream for help. You know how it goes. They did it to our own parents. They did it to our own parents. It's all a con for our parents, which is a shame. But
why don't you tell us, having gone to Academy at Ivy Ridge, how much was a month's tuition while you were there?
I think my mom and dad were paying between $4,000 and $5,000.
$5,000 a month.
Four or five a month, yeah. And I mean, yeah, that's. I was fortunate enough to get my contract file thanks to the other airheads out there.
Mm-hmm.
I read it, and of course I had no idea what I was getting myself into there. And it's just something else, man. I can't believe the kind of money that's dumped into something like that. Right? It's a shame.
$4,000 to $5,000. And how many other boys were you there with at the time?
There was pretty sure it was over 200 boys. I think the total school was damn near 500 people. 500 kids.
All paying that much.
Yeah, right. I think their net income for all the kids was like 88 million, I want to say, or something like that for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of the kids' parents were paying this much money. Do you feel like any of that money went back into the school?
Well, I come to find, you read the contract file there and you can see how the expenses add up because of all the name brand stuff you're going to be getting while you're in the academy.
Name brand stuff.
Yeah. Like,
ooh.
Like you should be getting the Old Spice and the Colgate,
Mm-hmm.
the Crest.
What were you really getting?
Oh, we were getting the good AIM brand.
Okay.
The AIM brand, the basic stuff. The
VO5.
Yeah, like just the cheapest of cheapest stuff. There was no way. Like you could, now that I'm sitting here, I could definitely tell. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, way to milk our mom and dads and then pay for the cheapest stuff to take care of us.
And it's funny you should say that. It was exactly like that in Carolina Springs, where I remember going to the supposed store.
Mm-hmm.
Was it like that for you guys? Or what did you guys call it?
Oh man. I do not remember. I do know what you're talking about. I do remember something of the sort. I just can't. I don't think I ever. Did you have to be a certain level to use the store?
Not at Carolina Springs,
Okay,
but you had to be level 2 or above to buy candy.
All right. Yeah. See, I was never able. There was no store there that I can remember. Nothing like that. I mean, if you needed more stuff, I'm pretty sure you just told them, I need more toothpaste or whatever. I don't remember a store.
So, while you were there, and even though in your relative short stay, how much progress would you say you made in the supposed program while you were there?
I remember reaching level 1 at one point there, because I think during certain levels are seminars. And so I was level 1 for a period of time, but that was all the more I made. I didn't get any higher than that.
I want you to know, Billy, there's really nothing wrong with having made no progress in that program, because I want you to know, I was in the same boat. I made absolutely no progress the entire time I was there. I made it to level 2, and that was about it. I never even touched on level 3.
Yep.
But for some reason, I was just expected to do this too. But I think a common misconception is that program is not easy.
Not for the average person, and I only say that because I have seen people just I remember people just leveling up there.
Yeah,
and
I
you
remember that
don't
too.
know how. Because
I remember that too.
There's no, they're telling me, oh, well, it takes this long and you got to get this many points. Well, then how the hell did he just level up in a week?
Mm-hmm.
What's he doing? And a lot of these guys were in with, their mom and dads were in with the government, it comes to find out.
Really? Tell us about that.
I mean, you put the pieces together. You find out these bigwigs have their kids from the government have their kids going here, and it's just for the numbers, to pump up their numbers, make them look better. You know, I mean, why not? They probably don't even have to pay as much as us, believe it or not. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the government gave them the whole thing for free, just so they can get that number. And like I said, they graduate in what, 6 months, under a year? How? And that just doesn't add up.
So these kids were the children of government employees.
Yeah.
Were they all from Washington, D.C. or the Virginia, Maryland area?
I mean, definitely. The one I can recall for sure, his father was a pilot for George W. Bush. I mean,
really?
So yeah, at the time I was there, and I mean, I only seen him. He helped me. He helped me get in the program and taught me the ropes, so to speak. And that's the last I seen of him.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he went on to do his thing. You know.
You know, it's funny you should say that because, you know, in my program at Carolina Springs, I do recall there was somebody there like that, and I noticed that he had progressed very quickly.
Something how that works.
Yes, and he would talk about how his father worked at the Pentagon. You know, I used to live in D.C., so
Yeah, right.
I did. So, you know, you telling me about that, you know, it really doesn't surprise me after having lived in D.C. and seen how things work in D.C.
Yeah,
And it is not what you think it is.
I'm sure.
All right. So, tell us some other things that stand out to you during your time at Academy at Ivy Ridge.
Well, you know, there was a pretty bad incident at one point there.
Okay, tell us about that.
There was some brothers. Now, whenever I went there, I was just like, you know, who's from Pennsylvania? Of course you ask that in a program because
Yeah.
you're wondering where everybody's from.
You know, I did a lot of that myself.
Yeah.
You know, I wanted to know where people were from. I'm from North Carolina, born and raised. I wanted to meet other people from North Carolina.
Same. So,
You know, you do feel that camaraderie when
Mhm.
you're in a situation like that with people who are from your same area. So
Yeah.
I totally get that.
yeah.
Keep going.
So I remember I met, I didn't really meet him. He was kind of an odd fellow. I don't know if it was from the abuse he had taken. He's been there a long time. But he was from Pennsylvania. I did not get to know him very well. And then I found out there was 2 brothers there that were from Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So it kind of surprised me because whenever I was there, like, everyone was from New York, like, almost. It seemed like.
Yeah.
There was a guy, the youngest kid other than me, he was actually from Ohio, but, like, almost the majority was, like, New York.
You know, it's funny you should say that too. Because
It felt like to me.
Mhm. Where I was at Carolina Springs, you know, for me, it seemed like everybody was from Florida.
Okay.
And maybe 2 other people were from North Carolina. But
Yeah.
a lot of people at my program were from Florida or Georgia.
Okay.
But you're a lot of people were just from New York.
Yeah, I remember one kid from Florida in the program,
Okay.
and he had, like, stuff going on. He was a mess.
Oh well, you know that doesn't surprise me. But what did you remember seeing?
So the brothers, I found out, were from PA, and the older one, I think, was the one that was in my family there. I was in the Brave family.
Brave family.
Yep.
How many other people were in the family with you?
Oh man, I mean, it's a big group. It's a big group. We had almost like a whole hallway dorm. I mean, I don't know how to put it. I'm gonna say anywhere from 35 to 60 kids probably in a family. I mean, I'm just thinking of the classroom now. I mean, yeah, probably like 30 to 50 kids in a family.
While you were at Ivy Ridge, did you have any interaction with other families?
I don't think so. I don't recall that. I don't think we ever did. I think unless you were doing something like a seminar,
Okay.
your family, that's why they had families, because you were always with the family, so to speak. So, no, I don't recall that. I don't recall being able to, how you weren't even allowed to talk, really freely alone anyway.
Were you ever allowed to talk amongst your other family
Not
members?
during school, not during any kind of No, no, not really. I mean, the only time I got to talk freely in there was to my at nighttime when we're in bed to my bunkmates or whatnot. That's the only time we could ever speak freely.
By your bunkmates, was this like a big room or was it a?
No, just two bunk bed, 2-person.
So there were 4 people in the room.
No, just a single bunk bed.
Okay.
2 people. It's one on top, one on bottom.
Okay.
And then you had the closets, and then the cupboard above the closet. And then speaking of the closets, come to find out, one day we were like doing cleanup.
Okay.
Up there and mopping the floors and whatnot, and there was a bunch of commotion going on.
Okay.
And we weren't sure what was going on, and then the guards come running up, and they're like, the younger brother of the Pennsylvania brothers hung himself in the closet.
Wow.
With his belt. Now, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he died. I don't know how in the hell they cover. Who knows, man? I don't know how that works. I was just so young. I couldn't even believe what was happening. When they were like, he hung himself in his closet and died, I was like, holy shit. And then next thing you know, his brother is snapping. Like, he
Wow.
is going insane. And I'm like,
And I don't blame him for that. I
No.
mean, his brother just killed himself.
I don't either. And it didn't end up, I don't even know. At last, he ended up getting wheeled out of that building.
Really?
Freaking out. Like, I don't even know I don't know. Hopefully he's all right, man. But that sucks. Like, I don't know. It was wild. They made all of us, we went to lockdown instantly. You know that. I mean, we instantly went to lockdown. All of us, of course, we're nothing but curious.
Of
You know,
course. I mean, you're young kids. Of course you want to know.
We're trying to see what the hell's going on.
Mhm.
So they immediately put us on lockdown. And next thing you know, I mean, within the hour, 2 hours of lockdown, here comes a guy from a company with plastic fittings for the closet rings, for the closets. He removed all the metal rungs on the closets and replaced them with the plastic PVC so no more kids can hang themselves in there. And that was kind of just like, for me, it was like a wake-up call, because I was like, oh shit. I was like, all right, this place is a little more serious than I might be taking it. You know, at that point, I'm questioning whether I should start doing good in the program or not. You know, it really messes with you when something like that happens. But, you know, obviously, that's what a place like that can do to a kid in there.
Yeah.
It really can. I mean,
After this incident, was it at all talked about?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Okay. What would happen if you did talk about it?
Oh, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I'd imagine even if, I don't know, nothing good at all. Nothing good. You would probably be talking to the director or something. Like, something would be happening. You know, I don't know. But
All
yep, everybody dropped it. You know, it just, you didn't want to talk about it because you already knew what would happen.
Okay. You know, you mentioned the director at the Academy at Ivy Ridge. We're not going to name his name.
Right.
But I want to ask you, did you ever have any kind of interaction with him?
I have. I mean, yeah, on a couple occasions.
Okay. Could you tell us kind of how some of these interactions went? Were they positive, bad? What kinds of things would he say to you?
You know, I wasn't doing too good in the program, so whenever he pulls me in, usually it's just to try and play his game, you know, making you kind of feel bad, but at the same time, like, just pulling your heartstrings,
Gotcha.
saying, well, you know, I just talked to your mom on the phone yesterday. And it's like, well, that's nice because, you know, I haven't talked to my mom in
Yeah.
3 months, so thanks.
Yeah.
You know, thanks for bringing that up. you
Oh,
know?
yeah.
And he just, you know, just stupid nonsense. Oh, and I heard your sister in the background. Like, you know, it's just stupid nonsense shit. Like, it doesn't need to be happening. So, yeah, he'd pull me in to just kind of mess with me in some weird way there. I don't know what he got out of it, but I was just more or less going where I was told when I was told.
Gotcha.
So I didn't get restrained. And yeah, he's pulled me in on multiple occasions to try and mess with my head, and you know, and I know it might have been for the like to get on the tracker program, but it just wasn't a cool way to do it. And I knew that even at 12, you know, you know that's not right. And heading to a seminar one time, the family counselor, whatnot, she rolls out. I'm walking down the hall, and she rolls out, and she's like, "Oh, Billy," and she had the phone in her hand. She's like, "I'm on the phone with your mother right now," and I'm just like, "Hello, help me!" You know, I just started saying, "Help me!" And like, you know, she right back in her office, and it's like, you know, that they just really love to mess with you, especially when you don't do good in a program like that. You know what I mean? They really love to mess with your head even more a little bit.
You know, Billy, you telling me this, you know, reminds me of, you know, me getting that same treatment. You know, my family rep or family representative, if you even want to call him that, I certainly don't, would do the same thing to me.
Yeah.
And, you know, it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is not.
Yeah, I mean, all I want to do is be home, man. I
want to talk about your family representative and who she was. Tell me about, how often did you see this person?
I don't think I've even seen her really as much as I've seen the director, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I remember one thing of her, and it was that rolling out in the chair, coming out there with the phone in her hand, saying, "Your mom's on the phone," just kind of teasing me,
Really?
sandbagging me, you know. And I was just like, wow. And you know, I had braces and everything going in there too, come to think of it. And here, you know, I looked at my contract file. My mom marked down I didn't even have any that I was NA for braces and stuff.
Really?
And I just bring that up because, come to find out, the good old academy at Ivy Ridge, the doctors weren't even licensed.
Why does that not shock me?
Yeah, doctors weren't licensed, whatever you want to call them. The teachers weren't even licensed. The building code was fraudulent. The GEDs they were handing out were fraudulent. I'm just, yeah, I mean, it doesn't add up. I don't even know how the hell a cop walks through a building with so much fraudulent shit and doesn't know.
Would you say that you saw a lot of things like that going on a daily basis?
Yeah, oh, of course, for sure.
And what did you think when you saw that?
I mean, it's just brainwashing. It's what it is. It's just a lot of brainwashing in that place, man. Making you feel like shit. But then the seminars are supposed to make you feel better for feeling like shit. Like, I don't know. It was a lot of psychotic, like, mind-fucking shit. And I don't know how else to put it. That shit was weird.
You know, I want to touch on something. You had talked about going to the seminars.
Mm-hmm.
Do you recall which seminars you went to?
I think the one was called, I only went to one because of how good I was on my time there. Like, they were always just trying to motivate me, like, come on so we can get to the seminar, you know, part of your, you know. I think it was Discovery.
Yes, that was the first one.
I think that was it. That was the one I attended.
Okay.
And it was just, I mean, the way I took it as 12 years old was batshit crazy.
You know, I remember going through Discovery too. And
I mean, did you kind of get that sense?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So,
because you were a little older, so
yeah.
I mean, I only could imagine going into a program knowing about sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and then going into a program as a fucking kid.
Yeah, I would say it is a little different.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk to you about the Discovery seminar. Well, what about it stands out the most in your mind? Like, if you had to pick one thing to tell somebody to describe it, what would that have been?
A brainwashing seminar. I mean, that's the only other way to put it. I don't know. It's just a bunch of brainwashing crap. And I mean, you got to do it if you want to level up there, right?
That is correct.
So,
and I remember that same thing
You
happening
have
to me.
to do it if you want to get there where they want you to be. So,
Do you recall the part where we had to bang the towels?
I remember something like that where you Yeah, I remember something like
You
that.
do remember
I
that?
do remember something like that. Yeah. Yep, I do. I do.
What was running through your mind?
It's kind of just like a blur to me now at this point. I just remember thinking, like I said, like once the seminar started and once it was going and through the whole thing, I'm just at my 12-year-old self going, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Like this is weird. It's super weird. Like I don't know. Like we're not supposed to be seeing girls the whole time. And then we're in a seminar with girls and we're doing some weird shit.
Yeah.
It was uncomfortable more than anything.
Oh yeah.
I didn't want to be there. Straight up.
I vividly remember that same thing and not wanting to be there when I was going through that same seminar.
I mean, I know a lot of the older kids were like, oh, we get to see the girls, this and that. I mean, yeah, okay, but, you know, them poor girls in there weren't getting treated any better than us.
I want to touch on that too.
I didn't even realize how bad the girls were getting treated till months ago.
Till months ago.
Till months ago, man. And it broke my fucking heart. And it made me even more pissed at this school, man. Like, I swear to God. You know how it is. You know how it is if you're ever going to see any of these punks on the street. Because it's different now. We're grown up.
Yes, it is. And you know something, Billy, I want to tell you something. And you know, I tell a lot of people this because I want people to know that I can admit to this. You know, I went about a lot of things for a long time in the very worst way possible. And I've said this to a lot of people, and now I'm going to say this to you, you know. Some of those things I truly am sorry for.
Mm-hmm.
I am.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them I'm really not.
Right. Yeah.
Some things that I have said, I am not sorry for when it comes to talking about people that
Yeah.
I was involved in this with.
Mm-hmm.
Did I do a lot of bad things? Yeah,
Yeah, man, we're only human.
I did.
Yep.
I did. So, you know, I understand that. So, while you were there, you didn't see any of the girls except in the seminars?
No, I mean, from way down the hall, maybe you could see, like, what would be shadows. You know, it's just so far away. They're just like cutouts. You know,
Really?
you'd see them walking by. You know, you couldn't look anyway. So,
No, you
yeah,
didn't.
nope. I never, other than the seminars, I've never seen any of the girls' faces there.
So, you had no idea how these young women were being mistreated?
I had no clue at all. I had no fucking clue. I didn't even know what that shit was that age. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what was going on. Like, I didn't know. I probably would have been, I would have probably been subject to that kind of abuse, molestation, rape, what have you, if it wasn't for the girls, I think, you know, and that's sad. That's fucking sad, man. Them girls shouldn't have had to deal with that, and then being told to drink bleach if they don't want to be alive, and then letting them drink the bleach, and it just really, really fucks with my head. Like, how in the hell did they even tell the parents what happened? Like, if they died? Like, I don't understand. Like, and supposedly girls died there, so I don't know.
Really?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know how they cover it up. I've heard so many stories. Like, there was threats there too of Jamaica. Like, if you weren't good for so long, Jamaica.
Okay, now I want to touch on that. That is something I definitely.
I totally thought that was horse shit. I totally did. I was like, horse shit. When they said Jamaica, I was like, you guys are so full of shit, you stink. Now you ain't scaring me.
You know, that's kind of exactly what I said.
I thought it was complete shit.
I remember when they first pulled that with me. And I remember somebody told me, he's like, oh, if you misbehave here, you go to Jamaica or Costa Rica. And I was like, that's in another country.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? There's no way. All right, but I do want to ask you this. You know, as somebody who says he made no progress and misbehaved, and, you know, how often were you threatened with Jamaica?
You know, I was threatened a few times. I was told about it.
Okay.
And, you know, they'd say, whoa, it'll be cheaper for your mom and dad.
You know, they said the same thing to
And-
me. They would be like, "Oh, your parents can have you at a high impact program for less money."
And you'll wear a rag for your cloth, for
Mhm.
a cloth for your clothing that you'll wash on a rock.
And you'll sleep in grass
Sleep,
huts.
sleep in a hut. Yeah, I heard it all up there. I was just screaming bullshit the whole time, just kind of laughing about it until one day.
Okay.
There was a certain student there. He's been there, I think, 5 or 6 years, dude. Now this cat really messed me up kind of there because like I was sitting there and I'm like thinking, dude, your parents had you here for how many years? 5 or 6 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, and he was like a really big guy, and he just really just always just like fuck you, blah blah blah, didn't want to do nothing. And he was always threatened with Jamaica, man. Like he was always threatened with it. Like I think that's the first time I ever even fucking heard of Jamaica was because of him.
Okay.
Like your parents are sick of you sitting here for 5, 6 years. They're about done. Well, one day we got up for the count, and they went up to him and they said, "Grab your shit." And he's like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Grab your shit, man. We're done. They're sending you." And he's like, "Where?" And he's like, "Jamaica." And like I could just tell. I couldn't verify if they were lying or not, but I could just tell by how shit was going down. Like they were not lying. I could just tell right then and there that it was not a bullshit story. And then, you know, like I said, then just a couple months ago, I started realizing like this wasn't just me in this program. There's thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of us now because of how sneaky they are about this. And
Really?
it's just a shame. Like I can't fathom it.
Wow, man. After you saw him go to Jamaica, what did you think you needed to do? Did you think you needed to do better or what?
Well, I hit a point in the program. I can't remember. My grandmother sent me a card, and they must not have scanned it too well.
Mm-hmm.
It was the only kind of piece of information that was given to me on my status, on where I stood to come home. Okay? Now, obviously, they pre-read that. So if they say, we can't afford it and you're coming home soon, they throw that shit out. Because they don't want you knowing you're going home until the day you're going home.
No. They don't want you to know that because, you know.
And it still gives them time to try and con your parents. Well, hey, what if we can help you for 2 months at $2,500?
Yeah.
And then go back to normal payments because I think we can help you with that. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. You know, it was just designed to keep you there as long as possible.
And just milk.
And it was just designed to milk families for cash nonstop.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an everyday thing.
Straight up con. And yeah, I mean, it's just it's crazy. I even see now Jamaica. Like speaking of Jamaica, I didn't even realize that kids would go missing at some of these at them. Did you ever? See
I've never heard of that.
I was reading up on some stuff, and there was some stories on the I can't remember WASP survivor page online,
Okay.
and there was a couple people that said this similar things about how people would just like kids would disappear, and then there would be no and then the parents would just be told, well, we got a bad storm came through, a hurricane, what have you,
Okay.
and your child went missing, and then that's just the end of it. And it's like, okay, well, that's pretty fucking crazy because that I don't know, I just feel like that's part of like a whole trafficking thing in a sense. I mean, I don't know, it's just, you ask me, why I don't know, make kids disappear and just say a storm blew through, they're in Jamaica, who wouldn't believe you?
Yeah.
So I seen some of those stories on there and it just crushed me. It just really broke my heart.
I get that. You know, I've heard some stories that I couldn't believe. And you know something? You're not the first person that's told me about sexual assaults on these young women in these schools. I want to touch on that. Do you mind if we talk about that?
Yeah, that's cool.
Okay. Did you know this was going on while you were there?
Not at all. But now that I'm like at the seminar when you see the girls, and now that I know, I kind of can put it together, because some of them looked like something was fucking wrong. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? I don't
It
know.
makes perfect sense,
Like-
because
Like, we're all going through hell, so when you look at them, you're like, all right, they're going through hell too, but they look a little worse. For where? I don't know. It's just that's how I could put it.
all right, I want to ask you this. If this was happening to the young women there, did any of this happen to the young boys while they were there that you know of?
That I know of, no. No, because like I said, I was 80 pounds, just a little kid, man. And I truly, truly believe if there was any kind of predators in there, that I would have been like, you know, prime for the picking, so to speak. I was just so young and little, man. And yeah, I just think I think it was all on the girls' side, unfortunately.
You know, that's really sad to hear that these young women were subjected to that. And you know, it's like I said, I have actually heard of that kind of thing happening at some of these other schools, mostly to the young girls, but
Mhm.
also to some of the boys too.
Mhm.
And I find myself at a bit of a loss for words sometimes when I hear this.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, it's not easy to think about either.
it's also that, you know, when parents, loving parents, who were conned into this kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
you know, they want to think their children are safe. You know,
And getting education,
yes.
etc.
I want to talk about the education at the academy at Ivy Ridge. Your look tells me it's a very somewhat lacking system.
It was just a mess, man. Obviously, everybody wasn't licensed. There was no. It was just off the street people. I mean, it was all fraudulent as far as academics went there. They were handing out fake GEDs,
Fake GEDs.
Yep. Which I can't remember. I think after the riot, they ended up finding out about that. I wasn't there for the riot, but I just remember from recollecting the research I've done.
You know, I actually heard about that later on, while that school was still open, that Ivy Ridge did in fact face accreditation issues.
Mm-hmm.
And that ultimately is what led to the school's demise. So,
But it's kind of perfect for them if you think about it, because they had that to take the headline, okay?
mhm.
The fake GEDs take the headline. Well, you know, if you're the director sitting in the office, what are you going to be thinking? You're going to be thinking, well, I mean, in my head, I'd be thinking, we'd rather have the fake GEDs as our fake headline, or as our headline news around here, rather than we're a fraudulent school altogether. Our building codes aren't enforced; they're fake. Our staff there's no real doctor in this building. There's no real teachers in this building. I think that's kind of just, I don't know. To me, in my heart, I feel like that's kind of why they just let that run. They were like, oh, okay, yeah, if that's the worst that's being said about Academy at Ivy Ridge.
That's the worst.
Right. If the worst that's going on at Academy at Ivy Ridge is fake GEDs, well, then we got nothing to fucking worry about.
Oh, yeah, you know,
So-
it's what kind of world do we live in when a school is okay with the bad publicity they're getting is we're giving out fake credentials here, like fake diplomas, fake GEDs.
Yep, and then, you know, the director went all out.
I read about
He
that actually.
put
I know exactly what
He
you're
put
talking
lockers in. He put lockers in. They weren't there when I was there. Put cameras in. Wasn't there when I was there. Put a computer lab in. Really? Wasn't there when I was there.
about. You know something? You had touched on school though, and I do want to kind of backtrack. to
That's
that.
fine.
All right. Tell us what a typical day at school was. Was there any traditional teaching, or was it more of a self-taught program?
It was more of a self-taught. Yeah.
Self-taught.
It was more self-taught. I remember, no, there wasn't a teacher standing up there, it wasn't like high school
Okay.
teaching. Nope. They would give you your textbook with the pages,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd say, "All right, today we're doing this in this book," you know.
I want to ask you something about the schooling that you did receive. Did you learn anything?
No.
No. You know, and the reason I want to, you know,
I can
knew-
safely say I did not learn anything in there that I already knew, for that matter.
Okay.
I mean,
Because when I was there at Carolina Springs, it was an absolute joke.
okay.
School was. I remember getting there and when it was explained to me, thinking, "The hell is this?" So you know that does not shock me at all.
Did you feel like you learned anything?
No.
Okay. All right. I thought so. I just had to make sure.
I might have read a history book and learned something from that, but.
Yeah.
I remember I'd have days in school there
Yeah.
where I wouldn't even work in the stuff. I would just pick up like a history or a geography book. I was always picking that stuff up and just looking at
Right.
the pictures.
Now, did you happen to be in for any major holidays?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I want to touch on that with you.
Yeah, I was actually in. Well, I was in from November to March, the end of March.
Okay.
So, yep, I was in there for the Thanksgiving, the New Year's, the Christmas, all that good, horrible stuff.
Let's start with the Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
what was that like for you that year? At that age,
it
being
just
away.
it just sucked, man. There was nothing about it. I missed my mom and dad, my brother and my sister. I just wanted to be home. That's all there was to it. And I told them that every fucking day. Like, yeah, like what the heck? I just want to be home, man. It
And what was
sucked.
Christmas that year like?
Oh, it was horrible. It was horrible. They sent me my parents sent me a damn. Of course, that was the only time in the program, the only time I got a taste of chocolate. The only time.
Yeah.
And you could tell the staff were even pissed that I was getting any chocolate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like one of those people that just doesn't do anything in the program, still gets to kick it. But it was the one time I was able to kind of enjoy myself, but they sent me a dang album with all their voices in it.
Wow.
And that just hurt. I just didn't, I was just like, just come get me already. Don't do this to me anymore.
You know, another thing I want to ask you about the particular staff.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think about them? Like,
Bunch of that, I could tell they were a bunch of perverted men,
okay,
if that makes sense.
that makes total sense.
Your usual, like, just, I don't know, just stereotypical horny dude. Like, I don't know how else to put it. Like, I remember the staff desk having, like, Hustlers in them and shit there.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, they would sit there and watch us kids and look at Hustlers at the same time. And I'm like,
Wow.
and they'd be letting some kids come up and look with them. Like, some of the older,
And this kind of thing was just normal.
Yeah, it was normal. And that's just even more disturbing to me because, like I said, I did not know anything about the abuse going on for the women's side there
Mm-hmm.
until just a couple months ago, and it just fucking sucks. It breaks my heart, and I know for a fact that those same dudes that were sitting there looking at them damn hustlers being perverts on the job,
Oh yeah.
can't even fucking do their job. We're probably the ones over there raping them girls too, man. And these are married dudes. Like, these are dudes who are talking about their families at home and shit.
Really.
Yeah. Yep.
When you would look at these staff, and as an adult now, remembering them, would you say that any of them had any education?
I'd say one or two. Well, one person for sure, I would say had some kind of education.
Okay. By education, do you think he had a high school education
I
or a
think-
college education?
Well, I'm sorry. I mean by that, I think he had a high school education with a military background.
Okay.
Okay? That's what I mean.
So, none of these staff members had any college education.
I mean, who knows? From what I understand, a lot of them were just like Craigslist ad hires, like right off the street.
That, I've actually
$10
heard.
an hour, right off the street. That's just from the research I've done. It's just that's what it's looking like.
I've done that same research, and it's been, from what I've discovered, a lot of these people were exactly what you said, right off the street hires, right out of the newspaper, no education, low income workers. which back at that time, was very common. And I guess $10 an hour was just more money back than it is today.
something. Plus, these creeps had some perks.
Yes. So I want to talk more about like the students that you were in there with. Was there a lot of favoritism? Did you see that?
I mean, definitely towards like the higher levels.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, but I think that was all part of the brainwashing.
Yes.
Like, get to here so then you can be here, and I think it was all part of the big picture for them, like the brainwashing picture. Like, this is what happens when you level up and you do good in the program. But those people who leveled up and did good in the program, like I said, a lot of them seem to have military connection or government connection for that matter. And like, it wasn't no sooner they're level 5 getting the special privileges and then you don't see them again. So they graduated, what have you, went on.
Was punishment ever doled out from these other students on the higher levels?
I've done research, and I've even seen videos.
Okay.
Since they were smart enough to put the cameras up and then
Yes.
keep beating them.
Most definitely.
But I do remember them saying, there's a buddy system, blah blah blah. Like if you need to hurt, if you see someone escaping, you can stop them.
Okay.
And it was kind of crazy in there for that, because like we're bent, like we're a bunch of dudes shoved in there, and we're all hell bent because we don't want to be there.
No.
So the second we can kind of vent out or let it out on somebody, we're gonna. And that's what they did. So a lot of the other kids would, if somebody was trying to escape or what have you, would get in on it. I never got in on anything like that. Never partook on anything like that. Never seen anybody trying to escape. But yeah,
What kind of long-term effects did your time at Ivy Ridge have on you?
I mean, it changed for me when I became a dad.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, because once I got my kids in my life, it's just like I just really started seeing them, me and them, and it's like, how in the hell, like, I don't know, man. My thought process is, you couldn't even pay me $5,000 a month to send my kids somewhere like that. You know what I mean? Like, even if you were promising, like, my parents should have almost known better. There's always the good old saying, if it's too good to be true,
Yes.
it probably fucking isn't true.
Yeah, that's good because
And I don't know, like, my parents I'd like to consider them very smart people.
I would
and
too.
educated.
I would too.
And I don't know how in the fuck they fell for such a con.
I want you to know I feel the same way about my parents, and they just dove right in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of it for me was when I got older.
Mm-hmm.
I worked in sales for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
and some of the things that I was taught to do
Mhm.
in sales while I was working in retail were some of the same things I saw them pulling on my family. So it was all about sales.
Yeah.
It was all about talking.
Mm-hmm.
All about that.
Yeah.
I want to talk about this. You talk about your children. How has your time there affected your parenting? Like, tell us about that. What do you think?
I mean, I think that I'll know like how to guide my children a little better than if they were acting out the way I was at that age.
Gotcha.
I don't think I'd ever consider sending them away or getting rid of them, in a sense. I mean, I'm not speaking like my parents were trying to get rid of me. But you gotta understand, when I was 12, that's how it felt, sure as shit.
That's how it felt to me too. So
It felt like I wasn't wanted.
Yeah, and
So, I mean, they literally just drove, 6 hours dedicated to drop my little ass off and peace out, I'll see you in a year, it's just kind of, and you're like, even just being a dad now, that's just, it's hard. Like, I'll never do it to my kids. I know I'll be a better parent to them, and that's what counts. I mean, I was homeless. I had it rough after the program because I came out knowing about all the drugs, So it kind of set me up for almost failure in a sense. If you think about it, it was horrible. It wasn't cool.
I want to ask you this, you thought you were going to be there for a year, so, but you weren't. You were only there for 6 months. So how did that, were you just told you were leaving one day or what?
Yeah, so I think I forgot to finish that up. My grandmother actually sent me a card.
You told us about that.
Yeah, and it said, on in there, it said, I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Now, I don't know, they must not have caught them 3 words in there, but I sure as shit caught them.
Of course
and
you
they've
did.
never said anything of the sort. I'll see you soon, and I've only been in 4 months. I'm like, okay, something's going on.
Of course it is.
And at the time, my mom and dad were the owners of a business, a pet store, as a matter of fact.
Okay.
So, I just kind of in my own head was thinking stuff wasn't going so great here.
Of course.
I didn't know, but my Gram is smart. My Gram and me click. Like,
okay.
like, we're on the same level. She is so cool, man. She is awesome. And she would always just let me tell or show her anything I ever wanted, and she wouldn't judge me for it. She's just down to earth, and there's no way she'd put "see you soon" in a letter if I wasn't seeing her soon.
Of course.
So I kind of knew then that something was happening, and about a week before I left, there was a kid I did not get along with in the program. And it's not that I didn't get along with him. He just didn't like me. And I don't know what it was.
I encountered some of that myself. It's like...
Yeah. I don't know what it was. He just didn't care for me.
Yeah.
And,
I've encountered that.
He was complaining the one day about something I did. It was some stupid crap, like a pen. Like I took his pen... I don't know, it was something just stupidly shit, and the staff member ends up telling him, well, you ain't gonna have to deal with him much longer. He's gone next week. And of course that spread like wildfire in that place. It spread like wildfire.
Yeah, people can't keep their mouth shut, especially with something like that in there. But
so
people can't keep their mouth shut with a juicy story in general.
Yeah, and so then I just kind of was like, okay, like this is happening. Yeah, so, I mean, I knew it was coming, and then, I finally woke up that one day, and they told me to get my shit, and I didn't even ask, I just grabbed my shit, and I knew I was going.
Okay.
They walked me down to the same room where I left from, down there, in the beginning of all this, and there my mom and dad were, and man, was I ever happy as pig and shit to see them, man. I was so happy to see my mom and dad, you wouldn't believe it. And that place, even when I got in the car and they had all the candy bars for me, and we went out to eat, it was crazy, actually, going out to eat, because there'd be adults 6 feet or more from me, and I'd be walking by going, excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they're all looking at me like, what the fuck? Like, you just got to say excuse me once, and not to everybody around you. And I'm like, I'm so programmed. Like...
Was it tough acclimating back to the real world when you got out of there like that?
Thankfully, it wasn't. It wasn't for me.
Okay.
Yep. I mean, I grew at that time. I was growing up in the country, so to speak. So I had a lot of woods to play in, and I was just right back into it. And I think it was because I was so young yet that it didn't really affect me too bad. But then again, I learned a lot in that place. So I left with a lot more knowledge on drugs and sex and shit that I wouldn't have known about had my mom sent me there, so to speak,
Did you go a little crazy when you got out?
Well, yeah, I mean, the first thing I wanted to do was smoke some grass. They said, all the kids in there just said, what you need is to smoke and calm down. Because, they all were just telling me, you're just wound, the ADHD or whatever, you gotta smoke.
You had never smoked
Uh-uh.
weed.
No. So actually, it's crazy because like I ended up smoking weed like that August
Okay.
after I got out, and so like what 3 or 4 months after I got out, I smoked for the first time, and I just it was just awesome. I did calm right down in a sense, like the hyperness and everything, and I enjoyed it. I started smoking and I just became I started apologizing to my mom and dad, and I was like, I'm sorry for being such a dick. I don't know what was going on. I don't know why I was so, like the way I was, and I don't know. It ended up really just helping me out more than anything. But of course, then I did know about the other drugs. I did party pretty heavy there, but I mean, I don't think any more than the usual person, but I did have my bumps in the road. Obviously, the relationship with my parents didn't go so hot. As I said, I was homeless for a while there, just living with friends and shit, and so it's definitely, I'm definitely glad to be where I'm at now, for sure. I mean,
Billy, I can definitely tell, man, you have really done well for yourself. You had me over, you invited me in, and I have to say, I definitely see that. I see you doing so amazing.
Thanks.
I just want you to know that.
Yeah,
That's
thanks.
one thing that stood out to me the moment I got here. So yeah, and I want you to know, man. Coming from somebody else that didn't make any progress,
Mhm.
it's totally okay. And I've seen a lot of people who didn't make any progress in these programs go on to have great lives.
Yeah, right.
So, I think you're doing really well for yourself.
Thank you.
So I want you to know that.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
I want to ask one more thing. If you could talk directly to the staff and owners and directors
Mm-hmm.
of not only Ivy Ridge, but these programs and people who profit from the troubled teen industry, what would you say to them?
Well, I'd say simply that those little kids like me grow up to be adults.
Yes, they do.
And if they're like me, they're gun-toting Americans.
Okay.
And I hope you have every inch of trouble sleeping every night.
Yeah.
I can't believe some of you have children yourselves. I seriously just hope karma gets you before I do. If I ever see any of you, it's definitely not going to be pretty. And to the director of that place, man, I know you're going through some custody battles or whatnot, but I seriously hope you never get to see your children again. You don't deserve it.
Anything else you want to add?
I mean, I just want to shout out to the airheads up there too for helping me get my contract file back, and just for spreading the good word here, man. Keep doing the good work, and I'm going to keep doing everything I can here to tell my story and spread it and get the word out so we can shut all these hellholes down.
Billy, I really like that. I really do. And yeah. All right. Well, guys, Trey Bender here, Program Stories, Billy Armstrong. Thanks, guys. And thank you, Billy.
Yeah, no problem, man.
Thank
Thanks
you
having me.
for having me over here and putting me up and helping me make this dream come true
No
for
problem,
me,
man.
and allowing me to help share your story.
Yeah, man, no problem.
It's things like this that make doing this worthwhile.
Hell yeah, man.
All right.
Yep, you're doing a great job.
I appreciate that, and thank you for noticing.
No problem.
All right. Program Stories, guys. Thank you very much.